Good evening, everyone. We'll wait for 2 more minutes and start the class. Okay, we'll start the class now. Today we'll be dealing with cyber law, basic fundamentals, and we'll be looking into e-contracts, e-governance, and some of the important provisions of the IT Act. I hope you all can hear me. Can somebody respond, please? Just to ensure that you can hear me. Okay. Okay. I I hope it is better now. Okay. Anyway, we'll start. So, before getting into what cyber law is, there are certain things we need to know. There are certain terms that we need to, um, you know, get to know. Some of which are cyberspace. So, what is cyberspace? So, there are things that happen in this world, the crimes or the legal system, everything exists in a physical world. So similarly, there has been a cyber world or a cyberspace, which is which is actually simply the internet. So why do we need the cyberspace, and what contributes the cyberspace, the creation of cyberspace, and what happens there, and how similar is it to the physical world that we live in, to the real world that we live in? So the difference between the virtual space and the real life scenarios, and what all are the similarities between these two. So we have to get to know about these things before knowing what cyber law is and what cyber jurisdiction is, etc. So we'll look into what cyberspace is. So the term cyberspace was coined by William Gibson in his 1982 short story, Burning Chrome. So even though it was coined, it is known to be coined in Burning Chrome, but there has been, usage of that word cyberspace, not in a more international way, but still there has been use of that term, but it was actually coined. It is known to have been coined in the short story Burning Chrome. And cyberspace is a virtual world. It is actually simply the internet itself, the whole internet itself, where everything occurs. Everything that happens in the physical world occurs in its almost exact form, but where the identities of the people may be revealed, may not be revealed. It is something which is behind the screens. It could be computers, it could be phones, it could be, people could be using websites or social medias. So it could be a combination of all these. Cyberspace is a virtual world, that's made up of an interconnected network of information systems and technology infrastructures. So, what happens there? Basically, what happens is the exchange of information for various purposes. So, the exchange of data is what happens actually in cyberspace. It could be for socializing, it could be for commerce, it could be for governance, it could be for anything, it could be for the commission of a crime. So there are um, various needs, various scope for the cyberspace. It includes the internet, telecommunications networks, computers, and other systems that support the exchange of information or data. Theoretically, the human societies could create many kinds of cyberspace, technical realms in which digital objects are created, dimensioned, and evaluated in technical ways. For example, cyberspace is where language translation happens automatically in the blink of an eye, or cyberspaces involving full-scale visual inputs that can be rendered on a 10-foot wall. So anything that happens in the physical world could be mimicked in the cyberspace as well. For example, in the physical world, if a person translates, a language, can be done in the cyberspace as well using AI or websites or anything. So if usually we used to do banking through, in the physical, in the real world, but now it can be done on the cyberspace. People used to communicate through letters or through in person, but now it can be done on the cyberspace using many social medias or even using emails. So anything and everything that occurs in the physical world can be mimicked in the cyberspace as well. So I hope you understand what we mean by the term cyberspace. It is internet as a whole where the technology is used, some devices are connected, and they are connected, and the technology is used for the exchange of informations for many purposes to mimic the physical world. Now, cyberspace is a site of computer mediated communication, as we've already looked into, in which online relationships and alternative forms of online identity were enacted, raising important questions about the social psychology of internet use, the relationship between online and offline forms of life and interaction, and the relationship between the real and the virtual. So it could be connecting the real world and the virtual world. It could also just be contained in the virtual world also. So there can be relationships that are confined just in the cyberspace, or there could be connections from the cyberspace to the real world as well. Cyberspace draws attention to remediation of culture through new media technologies. It is not just a communication tool, but a social destination and is culturally significant in its own right. Cyberspace can be seen as providing new opportunities to reshape society and culture through hidden identities, or it can be seen as borderless communication and culture. Now we'll look into the significance of cyber law. So why do we need law? This is something I ask. This is a very basic question that I ask to even school students. So why
Yeah,
do we need law? Can somebody answer?
some sort of restriction we need to enforce so that we will ensure breaching it's not happening, or defined process or rules it's not violating. Uh,
Okay. Laws are to ensure that certain rules are not violating. So why is there a need for such rules in society? What is the
There is a
need for that?
possibility of doing
yeah,
there is a possibility of doing frauds, man. So in the cyberspace, there
No,
are a lot of
l-
opportunities.
law means it's a common referral for everyone, right? So some guidelines, right? So this would be the consequences, or this would be the impact of that particular thing. Right?
Okay, so there
It's
would
for
be
all.
okay.
It's a
Okay,
standard.
I understand. Yes, so there would be fraudulent activities, and there should be a set of guidelines to be followed by everyone. Common guidelines. So why?
Yeah.
What is the need for those common guidelines as well? It is simply because we all, as human beings, we are all diverse, right? So my rights might not be the rights of rights in the sense my morality might not be the morality of another person, right? Especially between generations, we can see this, disparity. We can see this disparity of, the values and morality between within a family itself. We can see, right? So even if we take our own families, the father, mother, children, each and everyone, we all have our own unique personality. So what is right for one might not be right for another person. So what is wrong for one might not be wrong for another person. So it is important to have some common guidelines to ensure that one does not hurt another. As simple as that. So that one does not encroach into another's life. It is as simple as that. So when it comes to cyberspace, when it comes to cyberspace, there also your identities are existing. Your virtual identities are existing, and you have certain rights, and you need to have certain common guidelines to ensure that other people do not encroach into your own existence, and also to ensure that you don't encroach into others privacy or existence, or all those common rights. I hope it is clear. So the points that you both told are right, which to add to that, it is basically because we all have different personalities and we all have diversities. So to ensure that there is no any clash in on on the question of what is right and what is wrong, we have to set some common guidelines. So now when it comes to cyberspace, we need to ensure that we have cyber law in order to ensure cyber security. So cyber laws came into existence in order to ensure that people use technology and avoid its misuse. So every good thing in this world will have some kind of side effects as well. So like a coin has its head part and its tail part, everything has its own positives and its own negatives. Cyber law encapsulates legal issues which are related to the use of communicative, transactional, and distributive aspects of networked information technologies and devices. It is not as distinct as the property law or other such laws since it covers many areas. The law and regulation, it encompasses the legal, statutory, and constitutional provisions which affect computers and networks. Cyber law is a generic term referring to all the legal and regulatory aspects of the internet. So, even though it is not as diversified and as detailed as the other physical laws are, physical laws in the sense laws which we apply to the physical world, it it is still needed, and it is still self-sufficient. Now we'll look into what cyber law jurisprudence is. So what is jurisprudence? Has anybody heard of that term, jurisprudence?
No.
Okay, so jurisprudence is strictly something which we learn in law. So jurisprudence, the term means knowledge in law. So the theories, the principles that we apply in laws while enacting laws, while interpreting laws. So there would be a lot of principles, theories, based on who can sue and whether a law can be applied retrospectively. or what kinds of punishments can be given, or how do we interpret a particular precedent, how what determines a precedent in sense a case law, and what happens when there is a clash, when there are contradictory statements within a legislation, or between legislations, in the same nation, in the same country, there might be laws which have contradictory statements. So what happens when such things are there? So uh, the study of all these things is known as jurisprudence. So the knowledge or skill in law. Jurisprudence literally means knowledge of law. So we're already used to some kind of jurisprudence. We are used to the civil side, criminal side, all these things we've already known. But cyber law is something new. So should the ordinary jurisprudence be applied to the cyber jurisprudence as well? Or should there be something new as cyber jurisprudence itself? What do you think? Should the normal jurisprudence be applied to the cyber space, or do you think there should be something? There should be the creation of a new jurisprudence known as cyber jurisprudence. I hope it is clear what jurisprudence is. Is it?
Uh, Yeah, you said right. It is knowledge about law, right?
Yes.
This is
So do
the
you
key
think the
word.
principles of the physical, laws, the laws in the physical world can be applied to the cyberspace as well?
Mm, it's yes and no, right? It's not for all, but
To
some
certain
some
extent, ma'am.
Exactly.
something
Exactly.
we can
Yes.
adapt.
To certain extent, we all can, we can accommodate certain principles, but there it cannot be completely included, because mainly because of the challenges that cyber law possess. So when it comes to the finding who can sue, where where can somebody sue, file a case, or against whom can a case be filed. So all these things could be a little more challenging when it comes to the cyberspace. So there are certain principles that have been adopted from the normal jurisprudence, but there are certain principles that have been developing. It is still developing. It is not a fully developed jurisprudence, the cyber jurisprudence. So it is still in a developing state. So some of the basic principles from the jurisprudence that have been adapted are something like a law cannot be retrospective. So that means if a change in substantive law has been made, so that change cannot be applied. That change applies only to the crimes that happens from the moment that change has been the change in the law has been enacted or comes into force. So if there has been a change in the penalty of, okay, for example, for for murder, let's say for example for murder, the government has changed the penalty from 7 years to 10 years. So if there has been such a change, that change applies to people only who commits murder from the date of that change, from when it comes into existence. That particular change comes into existence. So it cannot be applied retrospectively. So similar principles can be applied in the cyber jurisprudence as well. Yes. So applying the jurisprudence of criminal law to cyber law, we begin with the premise of punishment. So even when it comes to punishment, we can see that the same jurisprudence has been applied to the cyberspace. Cyber jurisprudence gives an analysis of the law where there is no land and even there is no border. where all things may be different from the physical world. They may be virtual by origin and nature. We have entered an era where cyber attacks could cause everything from inconvenience to death. Certainly, that universe of possibilities demands consideration as criminal acts. The United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, or the UNCITRAL, formulated the UNCITRAL model law on electronic commerce in 1996. So this is one of the oldest that dated, international instrument which we can find on electronic commerce. So electronic commerce is definitely part of the cyberspace because electronic commerce happens on the internet, on the cyberspace. The modern law is intended to facilitate the use of modern means of communication and storage of information. So, if we look into all these international instruments, there has not been many international conventions or instruments on, the cyber law or the cyberspace or electronic commerce or anything. There has been only very limited ones. So, most of them deals with the data protection, so be it the data protection or data sharing, data privacy, all these things are a bit complex, complicated, and confusing to many nations. So most of the nations, a majority of the nations do not know where they stand when it comes to data privacy. It is based on establishment of a functional equivalent in electronic media for paper-based concepts such as writing, signature, and original. So everything that happens in the physical commerce, what all can be adopted um, in the cyberspace. So when it comes to signature, we have to sign a contract. So contracts should be in writing. It has to be original. There has to be a legal purpose. So all these things, how can it be adapted into the cyberspace? So all these things were discussed in the UNCITRAL Model Law on Electronic Commerce in 1996. Now, another convention. This is a major convention, also one of the very fewest ones. The Convention on Cybercrime, also known as the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime or the Budapest Convention, is the first international treaty seeking to address internet and computer crime, harmonizing national laws, improving investigative techniques, and increasing cooperation among nations. So, what do you mean by harmonizing national laws? Anybody? What do you mean by the term harmonizing?
Common rules and regulations, ma'am.
Exactly, exactly. So how can all these national laws be commonized, or what are the similarities that can be found, and how can we have a common law to make sure that cyber investigation runs smooth? So when if a cyber crime occurs, there has to be cyber investigation. And when a crime occurs internationally, it will be difficult, much difficult for cyber investigation to occur if there is no harmonization on the laws on national levels as well. Now, the Council of Europe's Convention on Cybercrime 2001 seeks to harmonize national laws, improve cybercrime investigation techniques, and improve international cooperation. It also provides guidance to signatories on the measures needed at the national level to deal with cybercrime. Unfortunately, India is not a signatory, including amendments and additions to substantive law, that is to establish cybercrime offenses in criminal law and criminal procedural law, that is to establish procedures for criminal investigations and prosecutions. Now, talking about the UNCITRAL Model Law on Electronic Commerce 1996, which we looked into before. So there are two parts for the model law. Part one discusses the general provisions, and part two is about the carriage of goods. So when it comes to part one, they have provisions relating to e-commerce by legislating principles of non-discrimination, technological neutrality, and functional equivalence. So all these three principles actually they all are kind of similar, we can say, because basically they mean there shouldn't be a discrimination of a cyber commerce just because it has happened in the cyberspace. When you compare an e-commerce to the commerce that happens in the physical world, there should not be any discrimination. So there should be a functional equivalence when it comes to e-commerce and a physical commerce. Now, part 1 has 3 chapters and 15 articles, and part 2 has 1 chapter on carriage of goods, consisting of 2 articles, articles 15 and 16. So those who are interested may actually read all the 16 articles. It is quite interesting. Now we'll look into cyber laws in India. So there are cyber dependent crimes and cyber enabled crimes. Have you heard about cyber dependent crimes and cyber enabled crimes? Anybody? What do you think the difference would be? Is it clear from the term cyber dependent crimes and cyber enabled crimes? Can somebody try to analyze what that would be? Okay, I'll explain. So cyber dependent crimes are crimes that actually happen in the cyberspace, okay, between the networks or between the devices. So it actually happens in the cyberspace, and it is actually a core cyber crime. But cyber enabled crimes would be the crimes that happen in the real world, which are enabled by the cyberspace. So that the cyberspace adds to the speed or quantity or quality of those crimes. So that those are cyber enabled crimes. Those are actually the physical crimes that happen, but they are enabled more through the cyberspace. Cyber dependent crimes are the hardcore cyber crimes that happen on the cyberspace. So the abuse of computers has also given birth to a
for cyber enabled crime.
pardon.
Can I get an example for cyber enabled crime? I'm not getting.
Okay, cyber enabled crime. How would I give you an example? Um, okay. For example, if somebody commits a murder, and if somebody uses
Credit card frauds, ma'am, is a cyberspace enables to do the fraud, right? Credit card
credit card
frauds.
frauds should be cyber dependent crimes. It is actually happening on cyberspace itself.
We
Yeah.
can say, right, terrorism communication, right? So somebody is planning.
Exactly. Terrorism communications are cyber
Can be a
enabled
cyber
crimes.
enabled crime.
Exactly. Yes. I hope it is clear. So if anybody else can add some more crimes, we can determine whether they are cyber dependent or cyber enabled. Does anybody has any other input?
Sending messages to address the some states and in Hindu Muslim communal rights like that situations.
Okay, that would be cyber enabled crimes, provided they also do something more than the cyber terrorism, not cyber terrorism, but more than communication through the cyberspace. If they do something more than that, then it would be cyber enabled crimes. Or if they are just sticking on to the cyberspace only, then it would be cyber dependent crimes. For example, if
Cyber war can be cyber dependent, right?
Yes, that would be cyber dependent. There are cyber terrorism, cyber war is there. Yes. Anything else you'd like to discuss? Okay, if
No.
you come up with yeah, yes.
So where we can refer, right? So cyber laws in India, right? So if you want to see the trend pattern from 1990 or 2000, so what is the where we are getting stats for like no? So to get the base knowledge, right? So right, what is the trend? So say for example, so describe cyber laws in India. If we get the questions right, I would like to see the trend whether it
Yes.
is
Yes,
increased
I
or
hope you can actually,
decreased.
yes. Yes, I understand. I hope your question is on what are the laws that deal with cyber crimes and cyber laws? Is that your question?
No, pattern, right? Volume of crime, right? Where it's increased that at what percentage? Say if I say 2010 we had 30%, now it is like no 40 or 20. So
Okay,
where we can.
those could be some independent agencies could be running the research, or there could be people who do, individual researches as well. Some websites could be doing
How we
research.
can trust, right? So if I say for example I'm going to have some seminars, right, or some
Hmm.
basic knowledge to any other like no junior guys or person. So what would be the trusted right source of information if I want to prepare some 4 or 5 slides? Just I'm like no I'm asking.
Trusted sources would always be government sources.
Mhm,
Trusted in the sense it could be accurate, but it could be accurate or it could not be accurate. But definitely the trusted sources would be the government sources itself. We have cyber portals, national portals are there. State for each state there are most of the states. I know for Kerala it is their cyber dome. It is known as cyber dome. So if you go into those
mhm,
websites, there could be
mhm,
statistics. I'm not sure if there are. I've not researched any statistics on those websites, but there could be. But usually there are people or there are agencies who conduct. So if you wish to give a seminar, you can actually take those statistics and give reference that you have taken the statistics from these particular agencies and look
mhm,
into their research methodology. So I don't know
mhm,
if you have come across what research methodology is. So when it
mhm,
comes to research, there are various kinds of methods. So there are what to say, based on probability and stuff. There are
mhm,
various the quality research are there, quantity based are there. So what
mhm,
kind of research have they done to get those statistics? So try to know that and just give those statements. That would be more than enough. So usually
yeah,
people prefer quality research than to
mhm,
quantity, because the quality research methodology would be mostly uh, you know uh, it would be based on a little more personal experience of
mhm,
people.
mhm,
So you can just but all the research methodologies are valid. So you can just see what kind of methods they used and just
mhm.
give those statements. That would be more than enough.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So now we look into what the cyber laws in India are. So basically, the cyber law in India is the Information Technology Act. We also have the Data Protection Act recently that came into force. So the Information Technology Act, which is not there in your syllabus. So we for your syllabus, it is only IT Act. So the Information Technology Act 2000 came into force in India on October 17, 2000. It was enacted on 9 June 2000. So it came into force on October, but it was enacted and notified in June. The Information Technology Amendment. So after the enactment in 2000, there has been an amendment in 2006 and 2008, and there has been certain additions post the 2008 amendment. If you look into the IT Act, you can see, for example, 66A, B, C, D, all these things are amendments or additions post the 2008 amendment. So, and then there is the Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions Act 2023. which decriminalized 5 offenses. For example, Section 66A. So 66A was actually added in the 2008 amendment, and then later on it was actually removed through the Jan Vishwas Act 2023. And if you look into the Jan Vishwas Act, there are many acts, many different legislations where certain changes were made. Among those, IT Act was also included, and mostly it has been about the increase of penalties for many offenses under the IT Act. So if you look into some of the offenses, most of the offenses, there you can see 10 times increase in the penalties. And also, according to the Jan Vishwas Act, all those penalties would be increasing. I think 10% to 10% for each 3 years, regularly for every 3 years, right? There would be an increase, 10% increase to the penalty as well. So yes, these are the basic cyber law in India, and some of the basic what to say amendments that has happened on cyber law in India. We'll look into some of the sections later. Now we'll go into e-governance and e-commerce. So tell me, what is e-governance? We have heard e-commerce a lot. So what is e-governance? Anybody?
It is an option for the public to use the government services through electronic.
Options for the public to use government services
Through
on the internet,
cyberspace. Through
on
cyberspace.
cyberspace. Very good. That is one thing. Anything else? Okay, I think that is one of the main things where public can use government services on the cyberspace, on the internet, and so that the government can provide their services to the public. There can be government can have communication within the states, within their departments. Government can have communication within towards their employees. All these things come under e-governance. So e-governance is achieved by doing the functions of the government through the utilization of ICT. The governance involves ensuring equitable access to public services and benefits of economic growth to all citizens by safeguarding the rights of all citizens. The most important feature of e-governance is that the government ensure transparency in its dealings, faster in responses, and accountable for its activities. So, when it comes to e-governance, certain things you need to know or maybe write in your exams are what e-governance is and what are the features of e-governance. So when it comes to the features, those are transparency. One is transparency. So I hope you know about the Right to Information Act. So if you just give the mere sum of 10 to 15 rupees, you get to know the information about almost all the departments, except if it is really confidential to the nation. You get all the information about all the transactions, all the activities of the departments from every ministry based on the Right to Information Act. So this can be accessed through the internet, through the website, government websites. So the transparency in all the dealings are ensured. Faster in responses. So we know that when we used to get some sanctions or everything, it used to take a lot of time. But now even a company can be registered through the government's website and accountable for its activities. E-governance is a kind of window of opportunity, facilitating a much faster, convenient, transparent, and dynamic interaction between the government and its people. Now, when it comes to types of interactions, there can be 4 types basically: G to G, G to C, G to B, and G to E. G to G is government to government. So government can have transactions, conversations, or sharing of even ideas. All these things can be done from government to government. So it could be between the departments, it could be between states, it could be between nations. So another is government to citizen. So if the government has to communicate anything to the citizen, that can also be achieved through e-governance. We know that there is gazette, the gazette. So everything will be published in the gazettes. So it is there on the website. So if citizens have to know about a new law, everything is published on the websites. G2B, government to business, and G2E, government to employees. So all these interactions can be can happen on the cyberspace, on the internet, and all these interactions come under e-governance. The government. Before getting into what e-governance is, what do you think would be some of the challenges in e-governance? Do you think there could be some challenges in e-governance? It is there in your study material, but it is not too important. But yes, I'd like to have a discussion on that maybe. Has any of you come across any challenge in e-governance?
Maybe the quality of data, maybe the
Quality of data,
yeah, that right, accuracy of the data.
accuracy of the data. Okay. Anything else?
So,
Okay, so one
validation and overseeing any of the activity.
overseeing any of the, could you please go further?
I think he said about the ownership, right?
Yeah, governance, right? It's true, right? So, validation, we can say oversee or ensuring that these are in place, or we are deviating, or any slippage, what is defined, right? That is
Okay,
the way we
so
will
you
look
think
into
that's a
the
challenge?
e-governance. Yes.
Okay.
Ownership.
It includes, right, ownership and margin of errors, or right, sticking with the guidelines or follow-ups. So it's overall, right? It's one layer above what the person is doing, right? It should be not at the same level. One more level higher in that perspective, we will see everything, monitor kind of thing, how it goes, how it's progressing.
Yeah.
Kind of
And
thing
one more
we will
challenge,
cover
ma'am, so
comes
most
under
of the
e-governance.
the employees may not aware of how to use the system is another challenge.
Exactly. So one
It's
is
overall.
yes. So one is the accessibility and the usage. So even be it the employees or the citizens, they might not be used to this new type of governance. So that is one thing. And another thing is the digital disparity. Not every citizen has access to the digital world even now. So when you look into the rural sites, there are places, even though there are networks and stuff, there are still people who still do not know how to access the digital world, or how to access the cyberspace, or they don't even have opportunity to access cyberspace. So the digital disparity itself is a very big challenge. Okay, so the government approved the national.
Right to individuals.
Yes.
Yes,
Right to
here. Individuals.
pardon.
Rights to individuals.
Rights to individuals are a challenge. What kind of rights?
That is what you said, right, ma'am? So people may not have internet access, or they don't
Okay,
have a
the right to
smartphone.
internet. Okay. So the right to internet can be a challenge. Okay, fine. Yes, good. So the government approved the National E-Governance Plan comprising of 27 mission mode projects, MMP, and 8 components on May 18, 2006. So the government has approved, or the government has started National E-Governance Plan. There has been a second version of this as well since 2006. So some of the what to say changes or e-governance that India has initiated. One is Digital India, which was launched in on 1st July 2015 to digitally empower the country. And another one is Aadhaar, a digital biometric identity infrastructure. So there have been a lot of challenges in that as well, but yes, that is also a digital initiative. And another is DigiLocker. I hope I don't. I'm not sure if many of you know about DigiLocker. It is a place where I mean, it is an app where you can actually store your important documents, and there are apps where you can actually even access your certificates. I mean, academic certificates as well. And then there is Mobile Seva, mygov dot in. So there is this website mygov.in. So it's a platform for citizens to share ideas and get involved in policy and governance issues. You can actually Google this, and you can actually see, how it functions. And then there is Umang. Then there's soil health card, mobile-based advisory system for agriculture and horticulture, online tax filing. So filing tax, it used to be a very hideous job, and now tedious job. Now it is very convenient. We can do it online. Now we look into what digital contracts are. So what are digital contracts? E-contracts can be entered into through modes of communication such as email, internet, and fax. So contracts, before going into what digital contracts are, um, tell me what are the essentials of a normal contract in the physical world. Can somebody explain? Or
It's a terms and condition, right? It's a mutual agreement between A and B, X and Y, right? It's a mutual agreement.
okay, so it is a legally enforceable
Yes.
agreement, contracts. Okay.
Correct.
Then what are the essentials that are needed in a contract? There should be two
right.
parties, right?
Yeah, A and B. Yeah. So
Terms and conditions or binding between the
it's
parties.
it's right.
So common
Whatever it can be a right timeline, or right, it can be a money or time, or it can be a authoritative also, right? It's a mutual anything. Say it's a agreement, right? If you are going for any bidding, right, government bidding and all, so I supposed to meet X1 is that parameter, so that would be the contract, right? If I say 6 months, it needs to be completed. It has to be completed within the stipulated time, 6 months.
Okay,
It's a
so
time
what do you
time
call
bounded.
these
That
things?
one
What do
is
you call
after
these
the bidding.
terms?
That one is after the bidding. Then we enter into the contract.
What do you
Within
call
the
these
contract.
terms and conditions? You just use the term terms and conditions. So what do you mean by these terms and conditions, or what is it legally called?
Legally,
Okay, I'll tell you. So there should be an offer. There should be communication of the offer. There should be acceptance. There should be communication of the acceptance of the offer. There should be two parties. There should be a lawful subject, and the consideration should be lawful. So there should be an offer, acceptance, consideration. What could be the consideration? So there should be a lawful subject matter, and there should be something in return for that as well, right? So these are some of the basic essentials of a contract according to the Indian Contracts Act. So contracts in India is bound by the Indian Contracts Act 1872. So
But some of the
according
contracts are negotiable right now. Negotiable contracts are there.
What
Based on
do
two
you
parties, they
mean by
negotiate-
negotiable? Do
negotiate-
you mean what I mean?
Negotiating the terms and conditions, maybe the timeline of the agreement. Right?
Yes,
So
yes,
that is
definitely. Contracts are definitely what it is exclusively between two parties, two or more. So whatever they decide, that happens. Except when it is against the laws of the nation, unless and until it is against something is against that's what I told. The consideration should be legal. The contract should be legally enforceable, and even the parties should be competent to contract. I mean, can minor enter into a contract? No, a minor cannot enter into a contract. Only a guardian on behalf of a minor
That is
can
what,
enter
ma'am.
into contract.
One part is maybe more of abiding the law. The other one is more of the negotiation between the two parties and making the contracts.
I'm not sure if I follow you.
Negotiation should happen before the contract. Once you contract, it means everything
that
is
is correct. That
black
is
and white,
that
right?
is what is-
Agreement, right? There shouldn't be any dispute once you agreed or signed on the contract. So whatever waiver or something like that, it should be prior to the contract, or negotiation should be the prior, not once like no documented somewhere. It can be digital or it can be a physical. So negotiation shouldn't happen. Otherwise, it leads to some consequences or dispute or some misconception, whatever written. It should be the
Yes,
prayer
that,
to
that is called offer and acceptance. There will be an offer made by an offerer, and when the offerer makes the offer, there should be an acceptance from the part of the offeree. So when the acceptance is also communicated, then the contract comes into existence. So for example, okay, I'll tell you. um, I want to sell I want to sell an apple for rupees 10 to Mr. Karthik. Okay, I want to sell an apple for rupees 10 to Mr. Karthik. And now Mr. Karthik is telling me that he is ready to buy the apple from me for rupees 5. So what happens here? My offer was actually for rupees 10. His offer now, he has actually declined that offer. So now that contract does not exist. Now a new contract is coming up. Now he is being the offerer. Now he is offering me that he'll buy the apple from me provided I give it for rupees 5. So there can be an offer, there can be a counter offer. All these things happen before the contract itself. I hope it is clear. All these negotiations happen before the contract. So
Yeah.
it is actually a little more, legal. I'll have to use a lot more legal
Yeah, there's a
jargons.
difference between
If
legal
it's in
contract. Yeah, Mani.
Yeah,
That's
in
what I'm
IT,
saying.
right?
It's a
If you're like having the client support or outsourcing, generally we'll go for MS.c, master rights agreement, master service agreement. We'll go for it. So where it will be a detail in outsourcing world, it will be very generic. Digital contracts are.
Yes, yes, those all would be contracts. So what I was trying to say was all the essentials that we need in a physical contract, in a normal contract, would be applicable in digital contract as well, in e-contracts as well. So there should be an offer, there should be acceptance, there should be a consideration. The consideration should be legal, and there should be a lawful subject matter in the contract, and the competing parties should be major, and they should be of sound mind. So all these things apply to e-contracts as well. So e-contract can be entered into through modes of communication such as email, internet, and fax. The only essential requirement to validate an e-contract is compliance with the necessary prerequisites provided under the Indian Contract Act 1872, which we just discussed right now. Now, Section 10A talks about the validity of contracts formed through electronic means. So Section 10A of the IT Act talks Information Technology Act 2000. It talks about the validity of the e-contracts, where in a contract information, the communication of proposals, the acceptance of proposal, the proposals are the offers. The revocation of proposal and acceptance, as the case may be, are expressed in electronic form or by means of an electronic record. Such contracts shall not be deemed to be unenforceable solely on the ground that such electronic form or means was used for that purpose. So, if if an electronic means is used for the validity of a contract, or for the not for the validity, for the what to say, for the acceptance of a contract, or for the for any of the stages, of a contract, if electronic means is used, you cannot say that that particular contract is unenforceable just because those communication has happened through electronic means. So that is what it is. Actually a bit complicated. They could have just told that the e-contracts would be valid, or contracts where electronic means are used for communication will be valid as equally as the contracts that could be formed otherwise. So that is just written in a circumlocuted form. So Section 10A talks about the validity of contracts formed through electronic means. Now we look into what are the types of e-contracts. So there are many types. These are some of the types of contracts. One is shrink wrap agreements. So shrink wrap agreements are the end user license agreements. I hope you have heard the term. End user license agreements or terms and conditions which are packed with the products. For example, software devices. Now another one is click wrap agreements. So click wrap agreements are a form of agreement used for software licensing, websites, and other electronic media. So I think when we, for example, when we enter into a website, when we click on a website, sometimes you can see the I agree, I disagree buttons, right? So if you click on that, you're actually entering into an agreement with that website that you have read the terms and conditions. So you are bound by those terms and conditions once you click it. Now, browse wrap
Basically, it's a consent. It's a consent from the user.
That consent is actually an agreement. It is actually a type of e-contract. I hope you understand it. Okay, now another one is browse wrap agreement, our online contract or license agreements, again commonly used in website notices or mobile applications. The terms and conditions are provided in a hyperlink. So similarly, as we just discussed, there will be some terms and conditions written on just before you enter the website, and you'll have to click the I agree or I disagree to enter the website. Sometimes it would be just written that I agree to the terms and conditions, and just a hyperlink would be provided. So you'll have to click on the link and then read those terms and conditions, and then come back and then click the I agree link in order to enter the website. So those would be called as browse wrap agreements. So these all are some types of e-contracts that we actually come across in our daily lives. Now we look into what cryptography is. So what is cryptography? Anybody?
Encryption and decryption of data.
It's making the
Encryption
content.
Yes.
Yeah, so making a content in an unreadable way, right? If any intruder comes, so changing the modifying the content in another form.
So why do we have to modify it?
Somebody should not infer anything from message. Shouldn't be easily decoded. It's a kind of protection.
Okay, so to keep the confidentiality, right? So to keep the confidentiality of a particular communication or a particular contract, you use cryptography. So cryptography is the science of secret communication. So this is just to basically to ensure the confidentiality in a communication. So it is a methodology for transforming the representation or appearance of a message without changing its information content. So the content will not be changed in a message, but it will appear in an unreadable format, or it will reach somebody in an unreadable format. So it can be read only using some help. So the original message is called the plain text, and the transformed message is known as the ciphertext. So from the I will be sending a message. So before sending it, it will be a plain text. So I'll transform it into a ciphertext, and the receiver will be receiving the ciphertext, and then it will be again transformed to the plain text, and then I'll be able to read or get the data in the particular message. So how does the encryption and decryption work? It can be seen, the process can be written like this. C is equal to EK in the bracket P. P is equal to DK in bracket C. So where P is the plain text, C is the ciphertext, and E is equal to encryption method, D is the decryption method, and key is the key. So a ciphertext, if you get a if you get a plain text, and what happens, the decryption method is used, and a key will be used for the decryption, and it turns into what? A ciphertext. A ciphertext, when it gets a key, the encryption happens, the decryption happens, and it comes into a plain text format. So that is what happens in encryption and decryption. So encryption is the process of converting the plain text into a ciphertext, and decryption is the process of converting that ciphertext into a plain text which can be read. So in many of the descriptions, two communicating parties will be referred to as.
Sorry, ma'am. See, number 51 is there, right?
Pardon?
Decryption key of the ciphertext, right?
I couldn't hear you. Could you please be more?
Are you able to hear me, ma'am? How about now?
I'm not actually able to hear you. Some noise is there in the near my place. So,
How about now?
can you maybe type it? I'm not able to hear it.
Yeah, P is equal to, on the second equation, right? P is
equal to
D key of C, right? Decryption key of C, decryption method, then key, then C, then what is the number 5 on that?
Is it my problem, or can others hear?
Number is there, right?
No, yes, it's for all, right? It's
that's 51.
Too feeble. Yeah, his voice it's too feeble. It can be anything. It's an example, right? It can be anything. Just for example only, it is given, right? We can put any number. Similar way we can write other end we can use. It can be anything. Just its example has been given here over here. If I'm
example number. Okay. They took the number as 51 for the encryption.
Correct.
No. That 51 was my mistake. It was actually a typing mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
That is where I confused. Yeah.
But we can give
sorry.
any one, right? We can put it not this bracket and all. We can use any numeric. So similar way we need to decrypt, right? So the other end.
Yeah, I understand.
If you put it 51.
But
other
51
side
was
also
there.
you need
I
to use
could
the same
understand.
51.
Yeah. Are they trying to do something sort
Yes,
of mod
that
51?
was a mistake. That was a mistake. Thank you for
No problem.
pointing it out. Yes. So now, in many of the descriptions, two communicating parties will be referred to as Alice and Bob. So this is a common nomenclature. So there would be two parties, one the sender and one the receiver. So the sender would be Alice and the receiver would be Bob. This is just a common nomenclature. And the third party would be known as Carol, and fourth party would be known as Dave. and a malicious third party would be known as malware, and an eavesdropper would be known as called as Eve, and a trusted third party as trend. So these are just the common nomenclature, not nothing deep to be looked into. So, so some of the encryption and decryption methods we'll see. So one is secret key cryptography. It uses a single key for both encryption and decryption. So as we saw in the previous slide, there would they use a key, right? So they use a hash algorithm. So when the same key is used for encryption and decryption, it is known as secret key cryptography. And now when just a moment.
Public
There
key,
has been
private
some
key.
typing mistake. Okay,
Yeah.
so and that is known as symmetric encryption. And now when one key is used for encryption and another key is used for decryption, that means two different keys are used for encryption and decryption. It is called as asymmetric encryption. So it is public key cryptography. So there would be a private key and there would be a public key. So there would be two keys. So for keeping privacy and confidentiality, or especially for high level of confidentiality, usually the PKC is used. Now we'll look into what digital signatures are. A digital signature is a kind of electronic signature, but are distinct. So there are, okay, so there is electronic signature and there is digital signature. Now, electronic signature can be there are so many forms of electronic signatures. One is, yes. So digital signature is actually a type of electronic signature. So if you just write your signature on a physical format and then just upload it, and that is actually an electronic signature. Or you just uh, give your signature, you can actually write your signature on the on the screen while signing something. That is an electronic signature. But digital signature is a type of uh, is a kind of electronic signature, and it is actually distinct. So it kind of changes the message to a shorter form, to shorter bits, and that's how the receiver receives it. And then only if you have a particular key, you can actually have access to that message, and you can ensure that that message is from that particular person, because that particular key will be available only with that person. So digital signature is more secure and tamper evident, which encrypt the document and permanently embed the information in it. If a user tries to commit any changes in the document, then the digital signature will be invalidated. So it will be very difficult to make changes. So if you make changes, the whole message itself would be tampered. Now, digital signatures are an actual transformation of an electronic message using public key cryptography. It requires a key pair. As we've already discussed about it, there would be private key for encryption and public key for decryption, and a hash function algorithm. The private key is used to apply the signature to the document, while the public key is sent with the file. The public key contains encrypted code, also called a hash, that verifies your identity. Now, Section 3 of the IT Act 2000, this is where we need to learn more, describes the whole process of digital signature creation and its verification. This section is supported with Information Technology or Certifying Authorities Rules 2000. Rule 3 to 6. Yes, Certifying Authorities Rule 2000 explains about the manner in which information be authenticated by means of digital signature, creation of digital signature, verification of digital signature, and standards to be followed by certifying authorities. So the certifying authority rules and the IT Act, all these deals with the whole process of digital signature creation. Now we look into section 15 of the IT Act. It calls for secure electronic signature. An electronic signature shall be deemed to be a secure electronic signature if the signature creation data at the time of affixed signature was under the exclusive control of the signatory and no other person. The signature creation data was stored and affixed in such exclusive manner as may be prescribed. So, as may be prescribed in the sense by how certifying authority prescribes. Certifying authority is the agency which actually issues a digital signature. We look into that in the next slides. In case of digital signature, the signature creation data means the private key of the subscriber. So the signature creation data is the private key of the subscriber. So it is very important to secure, to protect and store the private key in the manner in which it should be secure. So when it is secure like that, it is called a secure electronic signature. Now, what are
Yeah,
the
basically,
certifying?
ma'am. So what they will do, ma'am. So first of all, they will try to hash the signature. Then they will use the private key to encrypt the hash value. Then
Yeah.
send it to the receiver. And again, they will use the public key. I mean, public key of the receiver, right? So they will use the public key for the decryption, and again they will do the hash. So that will help to
Yes.
verify the
Then you will
authentication.
be
I mean,
able to see the message. Yeah.
correct.
Or not just see the message,
So
you
it's
will
a,
know that the document or the
signature.
email
Yeah,
or the communication is valid, and from that,
correct.
that the authenticity.
Correct. Yeah. Authenticity.
Okay. Now we look into certifying authority. Certifying authority means a person who has been granted a license to issue a digital signature certificate under section 24 of the IT Act 2000. So digital signature certificates are issued by certifying authority. Does anybody know any example for certifying authorities in India?
Yeah. So Verizon or GoDaddy, so they will be the verify when we log into the any portal, right? It will be already verified that you can see at the top left corner of this one. So you can see the lock symbol. So if you click that one, we can see who certified this particular portal, right? It's legitimate or it's a trusted one, right? So these certificates, Verizon, it's most popular, and GoDaddy, and we have few popular CS
There is
certificate
e-mudra
authority.
also.
TCS is doing in India, ma'am. TCS, NSDL, they are doing in India.
Okay, that I don't know. There is e-mudra.
Yeah,
I have
eMudra.
tried to
Yeah,
access e-mudra. Okay, that
yeah,
is also a certifying authority.
certificate
Okay,
authority. So it's now
yes,
we can see the symbols, right?
exactly. Yes, you can see what are the certifying authorities somewhere around the pictures as well. Okay, certifying authority to issue certificate for the electronic signature according to section 35. Any person may make an application to the certifying authority for the issue of an electronic signature certificate in such form as may be prescribed by the central government. So there will be different classes for issuing the digital signature: class 1, class 2, and class 3. So class 3 is usually used for big business entities and all. Class 3 will be used usually for simple emails and communication. Usually people use class 1 or class 2. Class 2 gives a little more um, you know authenticity and access to a wider range of contracts and stuff. So usually class 3 is used by business, big business corporates and all. Now, they also can suspend or revoke a digital signature certificate. Yes. So, some of the functions of the certifying authority is to issue the DSC, to suspend or revoke the DSC. So, it cannot suspend a DSC for more than 15 days, and it can be revoked by the consent of the person issued or anything. You can just write to the certifying authority that I need it to be revoked, and it will be revoked. And no DSC will be revoked until they get to hear the person who got the person who got the signatory. Only then, until they get to hear from them, it cannot be revoked. To digitally sign the document, you must have a digital ID. This unique identifier can be obtained from various certification authorities. The certifying authorities are authorized to issue a digital signature certificate with a validity of 1 or 2 years. So usually you get it for 1 or 2 years. The DSC are the digital equivalent of physical or paper certificates. A digital certificate can be presented electronically to prove one's identity, to access information or services on the internet, or to sign certain documents digitally. The regulation of certifying authorities comes under the statutory function of the controller under section 18 of the ITF. So the controller of the certifying authorities determine the rules and regulations of the certifying authorities as well. So these are some of the things you need to know under e-contracts, e-commerce, and cyber law in general. So if there are no any doubts, we'll conclude the class. It's 7:20 already. So we'll do the rest
How
tomorrow.
much? Yeah,
Yeah.
how much we have covered so far?
We have only actually cyber crimes investigation left. That will be taken tomorrow. We have actually covered everything else: copyright, patents, be it cyber law as well, trademarks, IPR in general. Everything under the syllabus has been covered, except for cybercrime investigation. And I'll try to give you some case laws also tomorrow.
Madam, one doubt, madam. Is there any for cryptocurrency? Any authorization is there?
Cryptocurrency. Pardon?
Is there any authorization is there for cryptocurrency?
For cryptocurrency, there is no certifying authority as such in India. No.
In India, there is no certifying authority, and India not authorized that cryptocurrency.
No, but RBI actually has its own cryptocurrency, or it is actually going to introduce. Something is going on actually. I think it is already started, or it is about to introduce its own cryptocurrency, RBI. I'll look into that and tell you.
Is there anything, right? So when you physically learn this law and all, there is a bar council or some right? Is there anything for cyber law? If you learn, or if it's conventional law student, right? We'll go after studying for our years. We'll practice and like a member of bar council, and so you will be known very popular, right? Similarly, is there any way, right? Kind of thing in cyber law as well?
Cyber law, basically cyber forensics is one department where a lawyer can actually indulge. Is that what you actually tried to ask?
Hey, is there any right forum or some membership kind of thing, right? So if you are very proficient in cyber law,
No.
how you will get right?
No, India has not grown that much.
If you say
Madam,
Ramjet Melani, right? So we can say it's one of the top, right? I'm saying it is a similar thing I'm looking for in cyber law. Is there how you can
so
establish
you're asking for who is the expert, legal expert in cyber law?
Kind of forum, right? How will you get recognized? How somebody knows, right? So he handled right this prime minister case. In cyber law, which one is like, no, who has more experience or pioneered or some yes, right, some expert kind of thing we want to know, right? Is there any forum or any portal or any group,
portals,
right?
Portals, okay. The groups only. I can only tell you what the governments do. There are cyber police stations, cyber, portals are there. Apart from that, from the legal side, I'm not sure if there are, still this is a developing, what to say, even though the act came in 2000, there has been landmark case of Shreya Shingal case is there, and so even though these things are there, I am not sure if I know who the pioneers are in cyber law. Maybe I can do some research and find it out for you.
So in yesterday's threats, we can see, right, engineering engineers, some we can, like, they can register and they will have some portal kind of thing. So similarly, I'm looking for this any information regarding this cyber law.
So you're asking if somebody who is a cyber law expert
Mhm.
can just register in some forums or something? There is nothing
Correct.
like that.
Okay. Then how will you know, right?
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, how will you know, right? Who has rich experience in India, or matter of fact, in world? It's throughout world. So who has, right? Which
The
country
cyber
or?
law experts would usually be in cyber forensics itself. Cyber forensic departments are there in the police force itself. In CBI also, you can see, in the intelligence bureau also, you can see cyber divisions would be there. So there would be experts over there, and be it even them, people usually, recruit people who are already there within the branches, and then they usually get promotions and stuff and get into the cyber division. I've not seen any direct recruitments of such. My knowledge is very limited on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. We'll end the class. We'll conclude.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.